Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. I'm Ron Luce. I am joined by the other half of the Juice and Luce show, Mr. Juice. Buddy, first off, good to see you again. It's only been 48 hours, maybe.
Yeah, I needed every one of those 48 hours to recover, though.
I feel that myself. But no, it's good to see you again, buddy. Good to be back talking Cubs baseball with you. It's been a little while, Juice. We haven't been on the microphone in quite some time. Myself, Joey, and Nick were able to jump on the microphone after Thursday's game last week on the true opening day of the 2024 MLB season. Obviously, that was the walk-off loss in extras for the Cubbies. And since then, things have gone all right. Since that game, since we were last on the mic, 4-1 are the Cubbies, and they lost that Saturday game in a little bit of putrid fashion, but a win on Sunday in Texas brings them back for the home opener on Monday. Most of us were in attendance. Unfortunately, Nick was unable to join us, but 4 of the 5 of us were in attendance for that game. It was a great game. Shota looked great. The offense did what they needed to do. Great overall day. Tuesday's game, awesome offense as well. Big 10-run blowout. And then tonight's game where I think they made every single Cubs fan sweat and probably say a lot of curse words, Juice, but they still get the W. They finish off the sweep of the Colorado Rockies, and they take care of business. Juice, before we get into this thing, quick shout out and love to the comments as always. Our friend Jeremiah, Cubbies tried to give us a heart attack, but no, we chilling. Yeah, they did. They really did. They tried their damnedest, Juice, but they weren't able to. And thankfully, we are here talking about a series sweep and 4 wins in a row for this Cubs team instead of a devastating loss. Juice, we got a lot to talk about. We're going to keep a real high level here tonight, obviously, because of a bunch of things to touch on. Overall thoughts, man, after 4 wins in a row and a series sweep over the Rockies.
It's nice to see that they're playing decent baseball and still able to win. I think that kind of speaks to the level of talent on this team. I think a little bit of understatement, maybe on my part too, of looking at this team, going into the season. But you're seeing some early returns from some of the guys that they brought in or brought back. Some Cody Bellinger, decent plate appearances. Obviously, Christopher Morel and Seiya Suzuki have kind of been the catalyst for this offense. But
Sure have.
Kota Imanaga he had a great start, as you mentioned. And tonight, a guy that you're expecting to, make some type of an impression on this team to stay, Mr. Ben Brown, looks fantastic for a very long time. And I want to introduce just real quick, just to talk about tonight's game in particular, my new stat of team Cub wins. All right. So now we're kind of changing gears. We're away from the whole, hey, they're going to win like 80 some games, be competitive, be 500, make some noise. Now I think most of us would consider this Cubs team to be in the moment of a contention window, something where they should win the division.
Yeah.
The new stat for Cubs on Tap, and we marked one tonight, the character win. This was a game that any team in the MLB could have just thrown in. You're talking about an off day tomorrow and a Rockies team, and it's 28 degrees outside.
Yeah.
And they easily could have went out there in that next inning, swung it 9 pitches, popped out, and we're talking about a different game here. And while I'll say this, I don't think that it was great for my heart to sit there and watch tonight. There is a little value to what we went through. And I think there's a lot of learning curve for that. And that's why I'm introducing the first character win of Cubs on Tap. We haven't been doing these because we haven't been in a state of expectation for very long. But now in 2024, as much as Scott wants to throw in the comments, I'm sour juice, and this Cubs team is sour juice proof, I'm moving expectations. And I think that's what we should expect from this front office and from this organization from here on forward. So character wins. They help build some shit. And at the end of the day, I'll tell you right now, that's character win.
Yeah, a character win indeed. Couple quick comments here as well, Juice. Just while you were chatting there. Scott
Thanks
from
to the
Iowa,
original
thanks.
Scott.
Thanks for trying to jinx tonight's game, Juice. Yeah, that was a fun fiasco. But hey, they held on, like you said, just character win. Jeremiah saying he feels bad for KB being in Colorado. Sia is so good. He certainly is. And hashtag where's Joey? Joey was on one of our other good shows here at On Tap Sports tonight. So Joey gets a night off from doing double duty. But Juice, I want to dive back into your character win thought here because I think you touched overall on the high level stuff really well. And obviously, there's some other things I want to talk about too. Obviously, you said it right. Christopher Morel's been humming. Seiya Suzuki's been humming. Christopher Morel's like top of baseball right now in many offensive categories. Like it's great to see. The offense is humming. They're doing their job. They're picking up where they left off. Most guys even taking improvements really off of last year from what we've seen so far. But I think what you just brought up in the sense of that character win is so important because just how many games did we sit here on the microphone in games like this one where they came out on the other side of it? And we were like, remember that game when we get to September and this team's 2 games out of the playoff picture. And that happened last year. And we had, I feel like it was always you and I on the fucking microphone too.
It was for a while
It
there.
really was. But we had like 9 of these last year where we were like, wow, they had a chance to win and they somehow screwed it up. And it wasn't always an 8-2 lead. Sometimes it maybe was only a 2-run lead, but they always managed to find a way to screw it up. And, it's not something you want to see. And like Jeremiah says, wasn't a fan of the errors tonight. I agree. I wasn't either. But you said it perfectly, Juice. I think I don't think it's just the expectation that we have set, truly, as a Cubs on Tap, as a fan base, whatever you want to call it. I think it's an expectation within that clubhouse. Like these guys, I think, truly are wearing the weight of what happened at the end of last season fully on their vest and saying, we're not going to let that happen again. We're not going to let this Colorado team escape here with a win when we know damn well this is a team that we should beat 3 games out of 3. And they are continuing to do that this year. And that is such a nice thing to see. And, I think there's going to be, areas of concern that we're going to see throughout this team. And some of these I want to discuss with you here tonight. And I think some of these already are being brought up in the comments section as well. Very perfectly. Scott saying he's starting to worry going to Morel out too early and it might bite them in a game. That's certainly a possibility. Darren saying, one of the bigger reasons they went after cancel was from these kind of 1-run games. And obviously this one was not your traditional 1-run game by any means. But I think the players believe in Counsell and this coaching staff. Obviously, it's a very almost 100% the same coaching staff from a year ago, minus your bench coach and your manager, right? Flaherty and Counsell coming in. But man, oh man, I like that. I like that. This is the first character win of this 2024 club. And I think we've seen a lot of that character in the preseason, right? Through content, through quotes, through all that kind of stuff. But it's really good to see one actually physically executed in person like it was tonight.
Yeah, you've been in the locker room, Ron. You played, high school sports, college sports.
Yeah.
There is such thing as a win like this, lifting your dugout and making you feel like you're almost invincible. Like you can do no wrong. Like you can go ahead and blow, 5-0 lead and then an 8-2 lead and still, smell the roses at the end. It's not something that we want to sit and watch. No. And I mean, I'm not a fan of the Airs tonight either. But you know what I do know? I do know this Cubs team is going to play a lot better defense than they have over the course of the first 6. That's just a given.
100%.
They're that damn good, defensively at least. There's some holes around there. Some guys that definitely need to pick up their play defensively. Christopher Morel is obviously character number 1 for everybody here, but you have to remember he's learning a position and he's learning how to play it. And in my opinion, if you can begin this year like they have and win at expense of all the years he had, who's to say? And I don't know. I could be wrong here, but what if this is the worst that Christopher Morel plays defense the whole year? What if it's an early struggle? But as he goes, he continues to get better and continues to progress as he takes more reps in the field, as he works with the coaching staff more often. Because Christopher Morel isn't just sitting on the bench, not taking grounders or not throwing the bases when he doesn't have a chance to do it. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe tomorrow, instead of taking that full off day to rest, he's that guy who's going to Wrigley Field and taking some ground balls. Who knows?
Especially when you don't have to travel the next day, right? You're staying
Absolutely,
home for a 3-game set.
absolutely. I just think that like there's a lot, and two, to build on that, even more character of a win. This is when your ace was supposed to be on the mound today. If
Mm,
you score if you score 8 and Justin Steele pitches tonight, you probably win 8-2. Justin probably goes 6 and none of this matters.
right.
And we're sitting here not talking about any character wins. Maybe a character win is something I bring up later on in the year. But
Yep.
it's another start that you check off of the box and say, well, it's another start that I got through and won without my guy. And we
Mhm.
expect 5 to 6 of these over the course of the next, couple weeks that we're going to miss Justin Steele for. And if you go 500 in them, or maybe you're 1 game over or 1 game under, hey, I think that's a win because he's going to come back and give you a really good chance to win baseball games every 5th day when he is
Mhm.
healthy and he is back. So you got some contributions from guys out there tonight, Michael Bush,
Mhm.
Ben Brown, and don't sleep on, Hector Neris. That's a tough spot to come in. I know he got hit around a little bit, but I mean, to
Really
get that
rough
out
spot.
and not let them, push across the leading run makes a huge difference. Yeah, you got some great performances over the course of this, Rocky series, and it's winning these baseball games now means so much, like we were talking about, and I think this is a real character builder, and I'm excited
Yeah.
about
Yeah, and building off your character things here, Juice. I loved your point about this was supposed to be your aces spot through the rotation. Ben Brown was really good tonight. I think we need to give a lot of credit though beyond just Ben Brown because Ben Brown
it.
was
Sure.
very good. Ben Brown went the most amount of innings of any pitcher in this game for the Cubs. Obviously, there's plenty to like. Obviously, I know this is not just Cubs fans. This is all fan bases. Everybody loves the prospect, the new guy, right? Like it's the big thing. But look at Luke Little starting off the game with a perfect inning and a strikeout.
Yep.
That sets
Looking
the
good
tone.
too, throwing 100 almost.
Yeah, and he just pitched last night.
Yep.
He literally threw 12 pitches in that cold ass fucking game last night that I sat in the bleachers and froze my ass off for. Like, and he looked good, and he came back, and he looked phenomenal, and just didn't even miss a beat. And then Ben Brown, Mark Leiter Jr. got out of a rough spot there with Brown allowing a couple base runners. Merriweather gives up the one, but ultimately doesn't get really scathed. Really, if you look at this game, it was really Almonte and the errors were
Yep.
really the only bad spots. Like, yes, Neris got banged up a little bit, but Neris should have been out of the inning if Nico's able to make that throw to first base. And that's a very uncharacteristic error of your Gold Glove second baseman that I don't expect to continue happening throughout the year. As Joey said here, Dansby and Nico will be so much better on D as they go 100%. I agree. I think they'll be fine as this train continues to move throughout the year. But I think we need to give the credit where it's due now. Remember when we sat here in 2021 with Jake Arrieta
Yeah.
and Kyle Hendricks and Alec Mills in that starting rotation? And we said this Cubs team has no homegrown developed talent at the big league level right now. Justin Steele, Ben Brown, Luke Little, Jordan Wicks, Javier Assad, who Assad looked great on Tuesday. Wicks looked great on Sunday. This Cubs team's finally developing pitching juice.
Yeah.
I think that's where I want to give the credit tonight because yes, Ben Brown got beat up a little bit in his debut in Texas, and that's fine. But he came back and looked rock solid tonight. He was confident. He went out there and did his thing. He got tagged with the one earned run because allowing the base runners on, so he didn't have a completely scoreless outing. Which whatever, who cares? Only gives up 3 hits, only walks 1, K's 5. K's Chris Bryant twice, by the way. It makes him look really silly on the one. This was a hell of an outing as a testament to where their pitching's coming. And it again, just to continue building on that the character win. Like you got so much out of these guys in a spot where you're like, all right, it's probably a bullpen day. Thank God they have an off day the next day. And to your point, right? This is a team that could have said, hey, we'll go 3-3 through the first 6, with 3 of those being against the defending world champions, and we'll regroup and we'll get ready for the Dodgers. No, they said, fuck that. We're going to go get the 3rd win. We're going to be 4-2 with 4 straight wins, and we're going to ride that hot hand into Friday when the big bad Dodgers come to town and try to take 3 from you in your own building. Huge credit.
Yeah. And two, like, just to add to that, I think that the success of all of it, and Scott puts in the comments in Jed We Trust, for this Cubs organization, it's a 3-prong attack in terms of arms. It's, let's get some draft picks, we'll bring them in, we'll develop them. Let's spend some money. We'll go out and we'll get a Shohei Managa. It just went across the ticker during the game today that Jameson Taillon's going to throw real soon, and he's going to have a chance to come back
through 3 innings in a sim game down in Arizona.
Yeah. And then the final prong of that, I think, is something too that we don't mention enough of, and it's going to the scrap heap and reinventing careers. I mean, look at Leiter Jr., look at Julian Merriweather, guys who are kind of thrown out of their organization, and those are guys who are contributing, and that's huge because it keeps the cost down. It's a diamond in the rough. It feels like you can bring in guys like, I know he had a bad night, but Yency Almonte, and say, hey, it's going to be okay. We're going to get you flowing towards the right pitch mix, or, we're going to do things with your delivery to add more deception. I think that, it's willing to take chances on guys like that. And the Cubs have shown in the last couple of years that they can do it and bring in some cheaper bullpen arms. But the cool part about it is there's so much talent that in a game like this, you have the option to throw Luke Little out there and then throw out a bunch of bullpen arms and get a really good performance out of a really young right-handed pitcher who has nasty, nasty stuff. The sky's the limit for that guy. It's funny. Yeah. I watched today, and I thought he was good, not great, but the stuff was great, meaning that if he learns how to pitch and sequence, good luck to the league, because that curveball is gross, and his fastball has crazy ride. Like, I watched that from the right-handed batter, and I'm like, man, like, to me, you know how Justin Steele kind of throws inside with his fastball, and he's got a lot of run into the batter to right-handed hitters? Ben Brown's the same way to right-handed hitters, but it's coming out of his hand and exploding back in. And out of a right-handed pitcher, it's gross. Good luck finding that baseball. It's going to be tough. He got hit. A couple exit velocities were, kind of concerning. But when he learns how to pitch, man, it's going to be tough to hit. I don't know if he'll be in the starting rotation or a bullpen arm. I think he's got the versatility to do both. But I don't know. He was very impressive tonight.
He was. And I think on top of that too, right, Juice, you get that 2-seam run out of his fastball that, like you said, breaks inside on righties. I think in addition to like his curveball, and Boog and JD talked about it on the broadcast this evening, just how it almost like he almost throws his curveball different ways sometimes. Like he'll throw it and it has a little more like sweep to it. It almost looks like a slider coming out of the hand. And then there's other times where he can really tighten it up and it gives you that old school traditional curve break. And it when you can do that, the more crazy looks you can give a player, the better as a pitcher. Look at Yu Darvish, right? We talked about Yu's got 6 pitches, but it's really like 18 because he throws every pitch 3 different ways. When you got that ability, and then like you said, as soon as he learns how to sequence and starts to trust his catchers more, and that all kind of comes together, he's going to be something special, man. But he was fun to watch tonight. It was really good to see him go out there and do what he did in 4+ before Craig said enough and turned it over to the rest of the bullpen.
There was a fun text I sent in the middle of the game to John Brooks, friend of the show. I said, his curveball at certain times looks like great value Walmart version of Kerry Wood's 20 strikeout. Because it does. He's got that like bunny, that almost like he throws it hard enough to where it has so much spin. It's got that up and down bunny move. Like the Bugs Bunny ear kind of, but tight, like you said. If you watched Kerry Wood's 20 strikeout game, he threw a million of those. It seemed like
Yeah.
over the course of that game, and Ben Brown threw a couple of them where I was like, it's great value version of that pitch. Which I mean, hey, you'll take it.
Was the bunny intentional when referencing Ben Brown?
Dude, so many questions about the bunny. So many questions.
I was gonna say it was a very incomplete report. Like, we need more, Taylor. We need more.
Also, Taylor just almost buries the lead. Like, this is his bunny, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. Like, we're gonna go into depth of like remember when was it Rizzo or I think it was Rizzo or Bryant had their dog at Wrigley Field for a good run there.
Yeah. Rizzo, yeah. Kevin.
Like, oh, cool.
Kevin.
Yeah, Kevin. Yeah, we're gonna go back to those type of because I think that's fun when you're learning about these players and stuff. Like any little anecdote I can get. Yeah. I'm like, cool. Here's a bunny. No, then Taylor just breaks our heart and tells us that the bunny's dead and leaves us. What was that story about there, Taylor? Come on, help us out.
Yeah. 100%. Had to bring that up. Juice, I have one more quick question for you here too. While we're on the topic,
about Michael Cera too.
No, I wasn't, but that was really funny. I wanted to bring up because I feel like maybe outside of Kyle Hendricks, and obviously it's just one start, so I'm not gonna just overreact too hard right now, even though I know that is what people love is overreactions. Maybe I'll overreact a little bit this way though. Are you concerned at all about the bullpen? Because I look at this bullpen right now and I say, I know what we're getting out of Julian Merriweather. I know what we're getting out of Adbert Alzolay. I know what we're getting out of Hector Neris. I think I know what we're getting out of Mark Leiter Jr., assuming the splitter doesn't lose its funk that it did at points last season, right? We saw him kind of get tired late in the year and his pitches didn't have the same effectiveness. Luke Little, I think, is honestly starting to become a high leverage arm in this bullpen, at least from what we've seen and just with the stuff and what he can do. But I think there's a lot of question marks still with some guys in this bullpen. Like, I know Kwas was good in his first couple outings, but he kind of got banged up a little bit on Tuesday, right? Yeah, he knows where the dead bodies are. I know, Juice. That's your guy. But we saw Monty get kind of rocked a little bit tonight. I feel like there's still some question marks in this bullpen that I feel a little more confident, I think, because we've seen what Craig Counsell can do in terms of the management of a bullpen. But I am, at least personally, maybe this will be my overreaction so far for a week into the season. I think the bullpen is still a bit of a question mark. I think you've got 4 legitimate guys who are probably going to be your workhorses throughout the course of the season. But I think you need a little more out of those last couple guys out there in the bullpen that maybe they're not getting. Drew Smiley looked good, but again, we really haven't seen him in a terribly high leverage situation quite yet. So I guess are you concerned about the depth of the bullpen, or do you think it's just early and guys are still working out kinks, 6 games into the season now?
I'd be really worried if there wasn't if this were how it were set. Like if they didn't have guys like Keegan Thompson in Iowa who potentially could offer a spark. Or, there's a lot of different names down there that we can go through. But I think too, we were talking to Murphy's, we sat and we're like, how long do we give Counsell to figure out the roster? And, the answer was it ranged between 3 to 5 weeks. And, some of us gave him more leeway because of Justin Steele not being there. If anybody's going to figure it out, it's going to be Craig Counsell. And
100%.
At the end of the day, too, if the front office is super into competing this year and a bullpen is the only thing holding you back, we've seen it over the course of this, tenure that Ricketts will spend some money to go into the luxury if it means that, it's a team out there that's performing and there's just a weak part of it. I think that you got to give it 3 more weeks before we truly hit the panic button, because spring training, to me, as much as I hate it, with how big the rosters start, I don't think offers you enough time to get ready for the season. I think a lot of these guys in April, especially in the pen, when it's so up and down on when are they pitching. Like, at least you're a starter, you're going out there every fifth day.
Right.
But with the bullpen guys, I feel like their workload is up and down. It's harder to get in a rhythm, but they know like throughout April, they're going to get chances. They probably have more of a leash during that. I mean, Yency's probably out like 2 batters earlier in tonight's game. If this game is played like in August, it was,
Sure.
I mean, he stuck with them for a really long time, but he's just figuring out who can do what and getting people work. And that's the other part too. The old, and Boog said it on the telecast. The unfortunate thing was the Cubs got great starting pitching performances, so a lot of guys kind of needed work tonight. And I think Council like went in with, it's 8-2, and I can do these things to get some guys some work, and you just find yourself in the middle of a ball game after a couple errors and some good gap to gap doubles. And he'll figure it out. I'm not too worried about it. But I understand the panic, but like the initial like alert from all of it, because the bullpen to start the season has not been very good.
Yeah, it's something interesting to keep an eye on. I saw this take a little bit over the internet too, not just here from David Snyder, but he says after looking at Almonte and Neris today in the 8th, maybe the Cubs should re-sign a guy like Carl Edwards Jr. Maybe I think he's a great guy to keep an eye on if you're the Cubs, right? Like, hey, we're keeping you in there. We want to, talk to you and keep you in mind. But Juice, I do want to bring some light here. Again, we have a lot of content we're trying to cover here in a short amount of time.
Yeah.
But I want to bring some light to the last 2 days of starting pitching because I think it's absolutely worth mentioning. For starters, Shota on Monday was electric. We were there together. The reports come out that Chelsea Daggers his walkout song because he knows the fans will love it. Like it was a full day of like Craig did it right pitching Shota for the opener. Like he knew exactly what the fuck he was doing. It wasn't anything to do with we don't want him to pitch in Texas. I like the fact that they're keeping him and Steele a couple days apart because then you can't get a similar look at their type of pitches and things like that being 3 days apart instead of just 2. But he knew what he was doing, and Shota didn't disappoint, man. I mean, 6 innings. He took a no into the 6th, 5 2/3 no-hit innings. I mean, he was sensational. Joey could not stop freaking rhyming his name with Yo Mama because Joey had more freaking Miller Lights than he did food calories that day.
Yeah,
but it was epic. I mean, it truly was an epic introduction, I think, to the Cubs fan base and really to Major League Baseball for a guy like Shota Imanaga. Everything was playing. There was a couple of those flyouts that in June and July I'd be a little more concerned about. But right now in April, and even if those 2 long balls are solo homers and he gives up 2 earned, but he goes 6 and he Ks 9 and he doesn't walk anybody, you'll still take that 10 times out of 10 out of a guy who's widely considered your third starter, I guess, by some in this starting rotation. But what a start. And again, we got to enjoy it in person, so I feel like that makes it even better on the forefront.
Yeah, I got a theory that he pitched the way he pitched because he knew the wind was howling in. That's the other thing too. He's nicknamed the pitching philosopher.
Yeah.
There's no way that he doesn't know how to pitch in different conditions. So I'm curious to see, like, when we do get in warm weather months, how he'll pitch, because I think he'll change a little. I think he has the ability to mix things in and sequence his pitches different and try to keep the ball probably somewhat down. It's actually kind of funny. They were talking about it on the score. They were talking about how in the Japanese league that the strike zone's much lower. So he is now having the opportunity to exploit the top of it more often because they don't call the high strike very often. So that's maybe something that we can dive in further and further as we see his starts. Maybe that's part of his arsenal that he can start to build on because the American game is so much different. So yeah, he was fantastic. Spin rates look okay, good. I mean, he's got some things to work on, but then again, I can't fault any of these guys who were pitching this week when every game feels like it's 40 degrees and they probably can't feel their fingers. Like, how do you get a grip for a curveball like at all? Or how do you get it? That's why Ben Brown was so damn impressive tonight. It's like, dude, it's 26. It feels like 26 degrees out there, and you're just throwing just bunny ear curveball after bunny ear curveball. And when it's hot, you know for sure they're going to get a better feel of it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I'm excited about the two guys, Assad too, and I know we're getting some Assad love in the comments.
Sure.
Assad looked fantastic as well, and has for a really long time. He may be the most underrated pitcher in all baseball, because if you look at his hard hit rate, he is consistently in the top 10 in terms of, giving up exit velo. It's interesting to see how undervalued Javier Assad is in this rotation.
Yeah, and a guy, honestly, that I hate to say it, I kind of agree with Hank here, because every time this guy jumps in the rotation, he's effective. 2.80 ERA in 19 career starts. Hank says he's going to start punching walls if they take him out of the rotation, but I think that's fair, and Darren followed it up. He says plus 6 shutouts in those 19 starts. I mean, that's impressive. Yeah. 6 of those 19 outings are scoreless outings. That is, I mean, he truly is spectacular. And that's why I wanted to give love to it, because I know like the media focus, and I think the fan focus was very much on Monday because it was Shota and it's the new face and things like that. But Javier Assad came out there last night, and Joey and I had a conversation on Monday evening, very late in the evening. We were playing, I believe we were playing Irish poker by that point in the night. We had a bender of a weekend, folks. It was a good time. But we were talking about it, and Joey was like, man, I just, we're talking, and, our other friends are jumping in, friends of the program, Mr. Dom Flisk, Kyle K. And they're like, man, yeah, if you get 5 out of Assad tomorrow, that'd be great. And I'm like, 5? I'm like, dude, if he has it his way, he's going 7. I was like, how many times last year do we see him go out there and for no good reason go 7 innings because he was just cruising? And at one point in the game, I thought I was going to be correct, because I made a bet with Joey about 6 2/3, and it looked really good. And I'll tell you what, if it wasn't freezing cold and it wasn't the first week of the season, he had 86 pitches after that 6th inning. I bet you money Council trots him back out there for the 7th inning, and at least gives him another batter, maybe 2, and gets him closer to that 100 pitch mark. He was that good and just cruised through that Rockies lineup. And it truly was a beautiful thing to watch. I enjoy watching Javier Assad pitch as a starter. And like, it's really getting to the point now, Juice, where the Cubs have a great problem on their hands. Because you have, once Tyone comes back, when Steele comes back, you realistically have 6 guys who are all worthy of being starting pitchers on this roster, and there's going to be some tough decisions that have to be made. I'm really intrigued to see what happens, because there's a world where you could say, well, yeah, keep Assad in the rotation and send down Wicks. How do you send down Wicks after what he did against the defending world champs? I mean, yeah, he gave up 5 runs, but only 2 of them were earned because of the defense behind him. He pitched 4 strong innings against the reigning champions. Like, it's a great problem to have, but there's going to be some incredible decisions coming up, Juice, and it's going to be something to see. One more comment here, Juice, that I want to get to, because your your dinger pick for this evening hit. So for those that haven't seen, maybe you're a little confused. We are now doing dinger picks here as a part of a competition with our friends over at the Dingers podcast. Obviously, we're all under the On Tap Sportsnet family umbrella. And I think the Cubs on Tap group is going to fucking run away with it, personally, because Juice is you've already hit 3 of them, my guy, in the first 6 games so far. And I think 2 of those games, the Cubs didn't even have homers. So in reality, you're really batting 3 for 4 right now. I am still 0 but I will say, Michael Busch was a hell of a pick just in general tonight, though, because he had 3 hits. It was really good to see that out of him. And he did, yeah. He was on base all 4 times this evening. And Juice, he was a guy that on our preview show, and even at points throughout the offseason, I said if Michael Busch in his first full year in the big leagues can be like a young Freddie Freeman, when like the power wasn't quite there yet, but he was hitting a lot. He was getting on base via walks. He was playing solid first base defense. I was like, if he could be that this year, that's massive for this Cubs team. And right now, that's kind of how he's playing. Like a lot of people forget in that Texas series, right? All the great base running from him, a bunch of hits. Like, yes, he's kind of platooning right now. He's not going to probably see a ton of lefties early on. Garrett Cooper looked fantastic against Kyle Freeland the other night. Go Garrett Cooper. He got a lot of love from us in the left field bleachers on Tuesday night once he came out to play left field there for half in the ninth. We confirmed, by the way, the fans got him. Mr. Cooper's an ass man. For those that are curious,
I love when they do that.
He played into it. Hey, he was having fun. He was out there laughing hysterically the entire inning, just listening to all the knuckleheads in the bleachers yell just random shit at him, and we're all chanting Cooper, and it was great. But I digress. Bring it back. I think these guys, in terms of their additions as well, have just been so good, and it was brought up because I want to give credit to where it's due here from Dave Snyder. He said, "Hey guys, what a world of difference, right, between like Cooper and Bush versus Hosmer and Mancini from a year ago. Humongous improvement at first base." He even follows it up. Says Cooper was his guy to look out for at the Cubs. Snuck him on the same day they got Belly. Everyone in Chicago like, who's that? And Juice, you were on top of it, Dave. I don't know if you've seen that show yet that we had, but Juice, I mean, you said it. We talked about it right after they got Cooper, and you're like, hey man, all this dude knows how to do is hit with runners in scoring position. And he did that yesterday too. Like that's what he does. And there's a reason that he's on the big league roster, and they made tough decisions with guys like Matt Mervis and some of these other top prospects who you maybe could have argued could have made the team because of a guy like Garrett Cooper being available and them being able to swipe him for effectively a vet minimum for, to platoon at first base and maybe play a little bit of outfield for you. What a move it was for the Cubbies.
Yeah, and seems too like he's a really fun clubhouse guy. Like you said, being out there left field, kind of playing it up a little bit. But yeah, no, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like the Cubs have brought in more talent, and that's why, like, just to go back to like the character win thing, I think a lot of the wins that we were talking about earlier on, where we seemed like we were on it all, last year, are going to be negated a lot because they've brought in more complementary pieces that are major league players, opposed to just lottery ticket hopes in terms of position players. Like, for example, like Cooper, I think Cooper could play every day for some baseball teams in the MLB.
100%.
Very much so. And that's a guy you're platooning with a Michael Busch who, I'll admit, earlier on in the preview show, I thought he would be my disappointment pick. I didn't see much from him in spring training to make me feel comfortable about it. But I'll tell you what, I'm eating my words pretty quick because it seems like he has a very smart baseball IQ. And that's something that I don't think is very teachable at most points in careers, especially him who's a little older, kind of growing into his major league career. And I think what's kind of awesome is he has that Freddie Freeman-like baseball smarts where he makes the right plays for you and works a good at bat and doesn't try to do too much. He doesn't need to. That's the other thing too. Like I think a lot of these Cub guys who are more or less, just these additional pieces understand that Seiya Suzuki, Christopher Morel, Dansby Swanson, and Cody Bellinger and Ian Happ are going to carry this team as far as they go. And all they need to do is contribute when they can. Pass the baton, take a walk, make the right play, make the right base running play, get a bunt down. Opposed to last year, it seemed like, yeah, we're playing Trey Mancini every day. We need him to hit a homer. So that's the difference, too, between this year is I don't feel like they're fully asking as much from these additional players, but these additional players know their role and are kind of at a point in their career where they're trying to establish, but they could very well play anywhere else, or are new to the major leagues and excited to start their career. And in a guy like Busch, he's probably just happy to get a chance. Look where he came from. Not much chance to be taken at the position he plays, where he was coming from. We're going to talk about that team in a minute. But yeah, I think he's just happy to be playing more than, every day down in AAA, be on a big roster, their big league roster, and contribute, because he definitely can. We've seen it over the course of these last couple weeks.
100%. Yeah. Michael Bush, a guy I've enjoyed seeing a lot of as well. Jeremiah says a swing similar to Freddie's too. Yeah, he kind of does. If Michael Bush in his Cubs career can be a great value version of Freddie Freeman, I will be ecstatic over the
That's all
fact
we
that
need.
they were able to get him for a couple of maybe prospects, because that's what the Dodgers needed, was guys not on the 40 man. And the Cubs were like, "Whoa, we have 40 man space. Yeah, we'll take Michael Bush from you. No problem." Clearly, you're starting to see why he was a top 100 prospect in baseball, right? And I think as the weather warms, he's going to be a guy that you do start to see more power from. So I look forward to seeing what comes from him. But again, like you put it, man, I think Cooper has been just as good of an addition as well. Darren said here, Cooper joins Talkman and Gomes in his Blue Collar Boys group. I like it. I dig it. Garrett Cooper, good lunch pail guy. Definitely fits
Love
into
it.
the Chicago culture and all things like that. But Juice, you put it perfectly. It is time to look ahead. As Jeremiah says here, there is no baseball tomorrow, and it'll be very sad. No baseball for the Cubbies tomorrow. Plenty of other baseball, just no baseball for the Cubbies tomorrow. But they will be taking on the Dodgers for a 3-game set this weekend. Friday's game, a good old-fashioned 120 game at Wrigley Field. That one will be on Marquee Sports Network for everybody in the market. Obviously, outside the market, that'll be MLB TV. Saturday versus the Dodgers, it's a 3:05 start. It is on Marquee in the local network, but that one will be on FS1 nationally. So that probably a large reason for the weird start time. And then on Sunday, it's back to a 1:20 start on Marquee Sports Network for the Cubbies and Dodgers. Juice. Expectations for the Cubbies, a day off. You don't have to leave the city of Chicago. You wait for the Dodgers to come to you. How are you feeling for the Cubs going into this 3-game set with the boys in blue?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they stack up. I think the Cubs should take this as a early measuring stick. I think a lot of these games that they're going to have over the course of this month are going to be, as we would probably call it, an early measuring stick. They're a very good team. It's clear they're World Series favorite. They're, somebody that you can measure yourself against, but just go out there and try to play sound defensive baseball. I think that's like step one to this team kind of playing their brand. The Cubs are scoring and winning, but I don't think necessarily we're playing Cubs baseball yet. They're all about run prevention, stealing bases, defensive, type of, but that's how this team's constructed. They're going to hit hopefully like this the whole year, because that would be sweet. But I really hope that they clean it up a little bit. Let's clean up the defense. Let's figure out where we're at in terms of if certain guys can play certain positions or not. And I don't know. It'd be interesting to see how LA comes into this series on the road and plays the Cubs, and how the Cubs look at LA. I mean, it's a real opportunity for them to send a message and be like, "Hey, we're pretty damn good too." So that's what I hope we see this weekend. Let's see some wind blowing in. Let's see a little bit of stolen bases. What was cool today? I think twice they executed a nice hit and run. They didn't do
Yes.
that often with David Ross, and it's kind of cool to watch Craig Counsell kind of put his fingertips on the game sometime, fingerprints. But yeah, I hope he's worth one, and this is just a tough stretch that if they can win 2 out of 3, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Just a couple of comments here to add on. Hank says, unless the wind is howling on Friday, he's worried the Dodgers going to have batting practice against Kyle Hendricks. I mean, I'll tell you right now, based on what we're seeing here, It's going to be cold, but it's the weather's going to be decent this coming weekend. So Friday is going to be partly cloudy, about 45 degrees, probably around first pitch. Saturday, sunshine, upper 40s. And then Sunday, there's a chance of rain, naturally, as there is in April, 49 degrees. But then the Cubbies go on the road, and it's like Mother Nature decided to be a real bitch because it's supposed to be like in the 60s as soon as the Cubs leave and go to the West Coast. So it would have been great days for baseball at Wrigley Field, but of course, the Cubs are going to be away from home there for about 11 days. I guess West Coast appointments. So yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on the wind, see what happens there. It's going to be, again, something interesting to keep an eye on. As noted, everybody worried about Hendricks. It is due to be Hendricks through the rotation on Friday, Saturday. The expectation then will be Jordan Wicks, and then that would mean Sunday we would get to see Shota Imanaga, which obviously could be an incredible matchup, given that he will likely get a chance to go against Mr. Shohei Ohtani. Worth keeping in mind, the Cubs will see Bobby Miller and Yamamoto in this series. That'll be the Friday, Saturday games. It'll be their 5-starter Stone on Sunday as of now is what it is shaping up to be. Dave says Cubs need to get out of the cold and warmed up. Certainly they will have a chance to do that on Thursday. Dodgers also off on Thursday. They're currently in action right now. They're playing the San Francisco Giants, looking to go for that sweep over the G-men out there on the West Coast. Glasnow went 6 innings and struck out 7 because that's just what he's going to do. So that is what it is. Cubbies and Dodgers will both be well rested for Friday's series opener. We will be back at Cubs on Tap. Again, this first week's been weird. We were all together in person, a lot of logistics and things like that. We'll get back to our normal shows where you guys will hear from us on a nightly basis, starting on the West Coast trip coming next week. But we will be back with you guys on Sunday to talk about this Dodgers series. But be sure to follow along at Cubbies on Tap on the socials and keep up with everything from our Dinger picks before the game to our commentary and highlights throughout the game. As always, Juice, want to encourage everybody to follow our friends over at the Dingers podcast at Dinger Cubs on the socials. They're live every Monday night, and we are in a competition with them this year. We are going to win the Dinger picks. I think that is our entire goal here as it stands. I am at Luce on Tap. You know the drill. Juice is at Juice on Tap. And follow the rest of our great crew at Teddy Freddy 70 at Nick _ on Tap and at Joey Knows Nothing. Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks, you know the drill. We got it all over at On Tap Sports Net. And your friends, Garrett Crochet is about the only good thing going on the South Side right now, but your friends can go over to Sox on Tap and listen to their shows when they are live and join in on the conversation. They can all be miserable together because no such thing as miserable baseball right now here on the north side of the city. OnTapSportsNet.com, at OnTapSportsNet on the socials. Be on Tap Sports Network. Go and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Juice, it's always a pleasure, my friend. We had a lot to talk about after nearly a week off the microphones. Off day on Thursday. Dodgers are in town this weekend. We'll be back on Sunday to recap that Dodgers series as a group, and then it will be off to San Diego for a 3-game set beginning on Monday. San Diego. That'll be a good one, and we'll have some late night shows for you that weekend. That'll be a lot of fun with a couple of 8:40 starts in there. There's 5:40 start on getaway day on Wednesday, but another off day for the Cubbies that following Thursday, I believe.
The return of Cubs after dark. Cubs on Tap after dark.
Oh, baby. I can only imagine what Cubs on Tap after dark is going to bring in week 1. And then that'll be a while before we have our late night shows again, just with the West Coast nature of the schedule, not really returning until September, but a lot of late night baseball to start the year. And we'll have fun with it over at Cubs on Tap after dark, as Juice said. We'll see you guys Sunday. Juice, what do you say, buddy? We get out of here the only one now, Cubs on Tap.
Fuck the Cardinals. God, that felt good. The first one of the year.
Yeah. And let's go Cubbies.